Welcome to Content Catalyst, and in today's episode, I have the incredible honor of interviewing Tina Tower, a powerhouse in the world of business and digital entrepreneurship. Tina is not only a business strategist, she's a visionary leader who has dedicated her career to empowering women to build their own online empires. She's also one of my business coaches as well. I want to talk to you about AI today, and I have literally done your bio, like your intro in Perplexity. So I wanted to see what it would actually give me today.
You
And
were
this is
talking
what
and I was going, that's not my usual bio. I like this. Deb's
I
made
know,
her own
right?
bio.
I know. So it's like at the helm of her empire builder, Tina's mission is to help 100 women achieve $1 million in annual revenue by 2025. Her journey began at the remarkable age of 20 when she launched her first business. Since then, she has built and sold multiple businesses, including the successful Begin Bright franchise. Tina's expertise extends beyond business strategy. She is the best-selling author with her books of One Life, How to Have the Life of Your Dreams, and $1 Million Micro Business. She has been named Telstra's Australian Young Businesswoman of the Year and has been featured as Businesswoman to Watch in the Huffington Post. So on today's episode of Content Catalyst, I want to explore the digital landscape in 2024 with her and her fascination, like mine, with AI. Welcome to the show, Tina.
Thanks, Deb. Hello.
Hi, and welcome. So as I just mentioned, I did this intro then, and you just said, this is not my normal intro. I actually wanted to use Perplexity to see what questions it would give me to interview you. And also I asked it to write an introductory for you. So how did it do?
I think it's better than mine. I'm like, oh, that sounded way more exciting. I think I need to grab
That was
that.
pretty good,
Yeah.
didn't it? So for anyone that doesn't know you, Tina Tower I am part of her Empire Builder. Can you let anyone that has never heard of you know what her Empire Builder is?
Yeah, so her Empire Builder's been my project for the last 4 years, so it's just turned 4. I've been in business. This is my 20th year this year, which is
Wow.
makes me sound older than I am. I think I'm 40. You did say I started when I was 20, so I got started young. But her Empire Builder was started as a way to really have a lifestyle business on the side. I sold my last company in 2016, Begin Bright, which was a big business, and I didn't want to have a big, huge business again after that. But like so often happens with us entrepreneurs, we get carried away and one thing leads to another. And her Empire Builder actually grew much faster than what I ever anticipated. And I think the reason for that is I fell into it by accident by giving people exactly what they wanted. So after I sold my business, I was coaching people one-on-one.
Yeah.
And then I kept repeating the same thing over and over and over again. I'm like, people are paying me thousands of dollars an hour to repeat what I just repeated to the woman before. This is
Yeah.
crazy. So I put it all in an online format. And then a lot of my clients were going, how did you do that? Because it was still like, it's changed a lot in the last 6
Yeah.
years since I started that first one. It's
Yeah.
a lot more common now, but then not many people had online learning platforms. And so then I started teaching people how they could get their knowledge and put it into courses. And then they were like, we want this in a group. And so I started that and it just went off. So now I'm very focused on, we do a little bit of mindset, but mainly I'm a pragmatist and I like the strategy behind things. And so I really try and focus on going, this is exactly how everyone that you see that's doing really well in courses, what they're actually doing day to day, week to week, and this is how you can do it in your business too. So we cover all of the different areas of business for online course creators.
I love it. I've been part of it, I think, for about 1.5 years now, and it's been
Yeah.
definitely life-changing for me, for my business as well. So
Nice.
interesting. On the weekend, I was going back through some of your old podcast episodes and I scrolled back to 2021, May 2021. I went into unplayed episodes and there was one about launching, and in that episode you had said about this is what I'm doing this year for my business, and you were talking about launching. And at that stage your goal was, I wanted to get to 100 members, and you had just gotten to 100 members.
Yeah.
Can I take you back to those moments when you were in the early days of creating your own membership, which is her Empire Builder? Tell me about that journey from when you got to like 10, when you had 10 members, to get from 10 to 100.
Yeah.
What did that look like?
Well, I mean, it happened really quickly for me.
Mm,
So when I had Scale Up was the membership I had first, and
right.
we only had 6 members in that.
Yeah.
So it was like a group of some of my private coaching clients that also wanted to connect with each other. I never
Right.
launched it. I never, like I didn't run it publicly kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I class that as like my first one. When I launched Her Empire Builder, that was in June 2020. So it
Right.
was planned to launch in March. We had planned to go to Palm Springs and launch it there on
Mm.
the back of a retreat. And I had flown over, and 2 days after I arrived, COVID hit. So everyone else
Mm.
was due to arrive the day after, and I got back on a plane and went home, and we all know what happens after that. So I then like put it on ice for a couple of months going, do I launch right now? Do I not launch right now? Like what's going on in the world? We ended up launching it in the June, and I got 32 people in that first launch, which
Wow.
blew my mind. My goal was 10. I thought if we could get 10 people in, this will be amazing, be a nice group to start with. It's one
Mm.
of the only times that I have ever exceeded my own goals. It's usually
Wow.
they're so high and lofty,
Yep.
but it did a lot better than I had. And we reached 100 just over a year later, September 2021.
Okay.
And so how that worked, I mean, I did do a lot of marketing. I
Yeah.
am a marketer, I think,
Yep.
at heart with a lot of things. I love the way, I know we have that in common in trying to
Yeah.
work, why do some people get traction and some people don't? What are the
Yeah.
things that make the biggest difference? Is it just volume? Is it quality? Is it quantity? Like, what is it that makes the difference?
Yeah.
And I like working those things out. So I really enjoyed like looking at a lot of online marketers in the online space and what was working and what I could do and what I couldn't do, because there's different things that like super successful course creators do that I would never do, never want
Right.
to, would never go into. And so
Yeah.
I knew that, okay, there was a bunch of strategies there that are just not going to be for me. So what ones could I do? And so I played with that. And for me, one of the reasons I love online courses is I like the cyclical nature of it. I like that we have like
Mm.
on like when we're on game time and when we have off season, and that we can
Mm.
market and nurture and value add, and then boom, we've got like a sales period that only goes for 3 weeks and we only do it twice a year. Like
Yeah.
it suits my personality
Yeah.
so well. Yeah.
Yeah. And so to get from 30 to 100, because when I listened to that podcast and it's like, I just exceeded 100, I could feel the excitement in your voice. It was like, this is real, this is happening. So to get from 30 to 100, what was that journey like?
So I think that a lot of the beginning, especially because prior to me starting Her Empire Builder, if a woman wanted to run an online business and wanted to get it past hobby stage, a lot
Yeah.
of the masterminds and memberships were in the US.
Right.
So a lot of the really good course creators in Australia were going to the US to learn from people. There wasn't really anyone that had kind of taken the market here at doing that.
Mm.
And so I think when I started and people were like, oh, she actually knows what she's talking about and doing, because there was a lot of people teaching like digital marketing and doing different things, but they didn't have the business background that I had, and they didn't have like
Right.
franchising background, which I thought would never help me in a million years.
Really? I think that is such a big asset because that is all about systems,
Yes, and I
right?
realized that later in going, because
Okay.
people were like, "How can you put all this together?" I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
after franchising, it's just a piece of cake, really."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that set it apart, and then word of mouth spread to
Okay.
every single, like, there was a part of me that by the end of that second year, I was like, "Is there a female course creator in Australia that doesn't know who I am yet?" Because I felt
Right.
like so many people were coming to me because a friend of a friend told them that they should then. So it
Wow.
was very much built on referral. And yes, I did a lot of marketing otherwise, but we always do an onboarding form of where people found out about us. And I
Mhm.
think, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, but I know in like that first 100, I think there was only about 6 or 7 people that weren't referred by somebody. Yeah, it
Right.
was a lot.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, what was the biggest thing that do you think moved the needle the most? Because it takes a while to get a bit of traction in business sometimes, and I look at um, I look at it as a marathon, not a sprint. And I
Yes.
think that, like, I've got a little bit more tenacity. I think that I'm just like, yes, I want to get to here and I want to get there really quickly, but I'm also
Mm.
realistic about if I just keep doing the things, there
Yeah.
comes a tipping point. And it's like when you dig a well, right? Most people give up when they're just about to hit water. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if you just keep pushing that little bit more, then you hit the catalyst to open the floodgates. What do you think that was for you?
Um, I think the tipping point for us was definitely around that 100 mark. That was when it
Mm,
went from, something that was so one-on-one based to this was very scalable and
yeah.
leveraged then. What caused the tipping point and what caused, I think, the growth to get to there was I am very obsessed about customer results. And so I
Mm,
wanted everyone that came in to get good results. I said no to a lot of people in the early days. So we don't do
wow.
it now, but when we were building that first 100, we had applications. And so I would make sure that people were at a certain level before they came in because I knew that a lot of people in their very startup couldn't implement what I was teaching if they were right at the very beginning. So I would only take people with existing businesses that
Mhm.
already had a business previously. So I didn't have to teach them about, you know, starting social media for the first time and setting up the structure of their business. Like we could just focus on here's how you take what you know and translate that into online.
Yeah.
Now I've gone a little bit broader with it.
Okay.
But for the first 100, I already had successful business women that were coming in that already knew their stuff, that already knew what they were doing, and they were just translating it into like a different product, really.
Yeah, right.
And so they hit it all very quickly. They did really, really well, which in turn made me look good
Yep.
as well. But also they loved it because they were coming in. So we were more expensive then. It was a slightly different model for the first 100, and
Okay.
then I changed it after that. So we started out at $1,000 a month, and then when we got to I want to say like a year in, maybe one launch further than that, like a year and 3 months. We raised it to 1,500 a month, and then it just kept growing. And I got to the point where I couldn't sustain the model the way it was. So part of that was we had accountability calls every month that had small groups of 8 people. So I was doing like 14 sessions of those across 2 days.
Right.
Because of the price point, I felt like if anyone had any problem, they deserved to be able to ask me that
Yeah.
question and I could personally answer it like straight away. And
Yeah.
so I was just like a slave to this Facebook group and emails. And I was
Mm.
like, I can't grow anymore. I have tapped it out. So we changed the model and took out like the super personal touch points and made it more scalable and dropped it to $5.99. So we dropped the price by a third, which then
Right.
allowed us to go a little bit broader and bigger
Okay.
with that. Yeah.
And so now fast forward to 2024,
Yeah.
so much has changed in the digital landscape. Like, it is lightning speed when I think about what we were doing, back in 2020 and
Yeah.
2021. Like, I was looking back through some old videos and I'm like, even
Mhm.
just the editing process of how we were doing things was just so much more time consuming. And now fast forward to 2024, what do you think are the key things for businesses to be aware of now that you've
Mm.
noticed in your own business?
Yeah. So like yes and no to it's changed so much. I think my
Mm,
whole business journey, like it's business doesn't really change at
mm,
its core, but the way that we do it does. So I think at its core, what makes a successful business is someone that's super passionate about what they do and doing it with people that they want to work with and getting them really awesome results. I think
yeah,
every business is the same with that. And if there's one of those elements missing, it doesn't matter what bells and whistles you put on the top of it, it's not going to work. I see people
mm,
sometimes try and do a business that they think will make a lot of money that they don't really love, and it never cuts through the same. And you see people doing things and they've got like high churn rate because this happens in our industry a lot. They're like
yeah,
master marketers and they can get people in, but then their product shit and then their reputation's going to be soiled. And so it churns a lot. And so I think at its core, like it's always the same, but the way that we've done it over the last few years, especially, and even
yeah,
the last year has changed dramatically in terms of the marketing that we use, in terms of
yeah,
the team that we require. I mean, even with you
yeah,
saying at the beginning, like you put into Perplexity and it came up with your questions and the intro and doing all of that, like that would have traditionally taken us an hour to be able
Yeah.
to look at that and work that out. So I know like my business now is just shy of like we're at 1.9 million was the
Yeah.
last financial year. So just under 2. And I have 2 VAs. That's our
Mm.
entire team, which even 3 years ago, I had like 2 local full-time team, and then I had other contractors coming in and different things to be able to do it. What I can do now so fast, and I don't work, I mean, I work enough. I'm definitely not someone that goes, make billions of dollars and work 10 hours a week. I work full days on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, usually a half a day Thursday. And the third week of every month, I have no appointments at all. I take
Yeah.
off 2 weeks every July and a month every Christmas. And so I have a really nice balance of how much I work. So I'm not like overworked, but what I
Mm.
can do in that time is just exceptional that I think utilizes a lot of the tools that you're talking about with AI and the things that we're doing and how we can create our
Mm.
campaigns and how we can put them together and edit them. I mean, like you remember when we used to sit there with videos and like, doing tiny little things one by one and it'd take like an hour to make them that
Yeah.
now is 5 minutes. Even I was
Yeah.
talking to Chen, my marketing assistant the other day, and podcasting, when we put out a podcast episode, the whole process for the podcast every week was about 6 to 8 hours. Now
Mm.
it's 2. Like
Yeah.
everything is just what we can do is so much more than what we could do before, which is going to have such interesting implications into the volume of stuff out there and who's going to take advantage of that and who's not. And I'm still going like, is more better? Are
Mm.
people, or are we just going to end up with more crap? I was reading something the other day that said people are starting to tune off social media a little bit because feeds are just being filled with things that they don't know if it's real or if it's AI, or like the trust is going
Mm.
down. So it's going to be really interesting to observe over the next 6 months to see what we as marketers are going to have to adapt to. Yeah.
Yeah. Trust on, like, we're talking about video, for example. 5 years ago, if you saw a UFO land, you'd be like, that's a UFO. Like, that's
Yeah.
legit, right? It's on video. Now it's like, it's not real. It's like
Yeah.
nothing's real anymore. And the advances with technology have definitely, this year alone taken massive leaps and
Yeah.
bounds. And it's interesting you say about the
Mm.
workflow of things. Like on the weekend, I was like, right, I'm going to do my launch plan. And I've got, again, upload, give it the prompts going, here's my launch, here's what I want, write my launch plan based on
Yeah.
the formula, right? And it just gives me a whole month's worth of timeline of activities and everything else, and it's ready to go. And now I can
Mm.
implement it and just check it off the list. Like you said, that would have taken, hours, if not days, for some people to put that
Yeah.
together in the past.
Yeah.
So if we're saving time here, where can we focus our energies elsewhere to build our business and build our brand then?
Oh, good question, Deb. The thing that I think a lot of online people forget is connect with humans. Like
Yeah.
that is to me what has made the biggest difference is some days, I would find myself sitting behind a computer all day, like getting things done. Whereas
Mhm.
now that can be fast tracked, that even before we hit record, like I was saying, I haven't done a lot of podcast interviews lately because
Yeah.
I am very strict on my time. I used to
Yeah.
overwork a lot and be quite addicted to working because, well, it's one of my favorite things to do. And, when we're
I get that too, because I am very
yeah,
much like that. It's very easy for me to work late into the night if I'm on a, hyper focus of something.
yeah, yeah. Like back in the day, I would work, from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night, and I'd be
Jeez.
perfectly happy. Some people would go, "You can't work that hard." I'm like, "What would I do otherwise? Like, this is my favorite thing to be doing. My kids are at school. Like, what else am I supposed to do?"
So
But
true.
now I am very focused. I try and focus on my health and
Yeah.
walking a lot and playing with the dogs and doing all of that. So I'm very strict because if I don't put the discipline on myself to stop at a certain time, I would just keep
Burn
going
out.
all the time. And yes, it does lead to burnout. As much as I
Yeah.
enjoy it, like you do notice, and I notice my energy wanes a little bit.
Mm.
So I'm very strict with that. So I've been saying no to a whole lot of things over the last couple of years so that I have enough time to do everything that I have to do. But
Mm.
now noticed I've started to get more time back. And I think that is because also my VAs are freaking fabulous. Like I've lucked into an amazing team. So I'm enjoying that right now very, very much. But they're also using AI. So they've also got
Yeah.
more time than what
Yeah.
they had previously and more capacity. So they're like, hey, I can do more. Like, how can I help? I'm like, this is incredible. So I'm doing that, which now has allowed me to go, when you ask to come on the podcast, yeah, I got time. I can do that. I'm going
Yeah.
to a couple of networking things that usually I wouldn't take a day out to be able to do
Yeah.
that.
Right.
I'm being able to, like, if I see a client on there that's struggling with something, I can jump on the computer and share my screen with them and show them that. Like, it just is allowing us, I think, to have more time to be human, which is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. And I think for me as well, AI has certainly helped with content marketing, where before you might have only done, step 1, 2, and 3, but you missed out the other steps because you were too busy, ran out of time, didn't get around to it. And I think that if we are like, the question always comes up when it comes to content of going, is it quality or is it quantity?
Yeah.
And
But
for me, it's about creating one quality piece of content that can be, distributed across the different touch points, because we all learn differently, and we all, like you said, we're all flooded with information.
yeah.
I know when I want to go do something, if it's not reminding me all the time, come on, buy the ticket, buy the ticket. I'm like, squirrels off distracted. So I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
for
it.
me where it's made a difference of being able
Yeah.
to amplify the message as such.
Yeah, and even that has changed. Like, I know, it was probably 3 years ago that I started using repurpose.io to try and maximize
Mm,
the capacity of each of them, but a lot of the content was crap that it came
yeah,
out with, and so it was kind of usable in the way of you didn't have to start from dot,
yeah,
but you definitely couldn't push it out. Like, I even had a contractor in 2022, so we're 2024 now, like, it wasn't
yeah,
very long ago, that
yeah,
I paid her 10 hours a week literally to go back through all of my masterclasses and like work out at what timestamp should we pull out that 60-second clip and write some educational carousel posts from what I've said, and go back through my book manuscript and pull out the quotes and do all of that. Like, that cost me $1,000 a week we did that. I think we did it
wow,
for like 4 or 5 months. Whereas
wow,
now you can just put your content straight in, hit a button, and literally 10 minutes later, you've got like weeks worth. I'm still not comfortable at the level where I just push it out. We still make a few little tweaks,
yeah,
but like only a few. It is really, really close. Yeah. So
yeah,
I think that the quality of the technology has also come a long way to I mean, I think in the next few months, like, you won't be able to tell at all whether
mm,
it's a real person or not. And there's positives and negatives to that, because I also fear that, one of the things that has set me apart in my marketing is I'm a really good marketer. What if all
yeah,
the AI is just as good at the marketer, and then the crappy people down the road can now outmarket me and do that? So it's going to have, for people that are not naturally skilled in marketing, it's going to be absolutely amazing. For people that are skilled in marketing, it's like, well, hang on a minute, everyone's going to be on a level playing field there. So you're going to have to get even more creative with it. And I do
mhm.
think that a lot more of that connectivity and that humanness is going to be more important as well.
So if we talk about AI and video, for example, for me, that's where I'm seeing so much change and technology advances of what we couldn't do to what we can do now. If I look at like video and AI, how are you using like those two now compared
Mm.
to say a year ago?
We use it a lot to chop up what we've already got.
Mm,
So that works really well. We're starting to put it in different languages so that we can reach people across different demographics.
yeah,
I have experimented a little bit with like Synthesia and Hey Gen in making copies of myself,
yeah,
of which I've decided I'm not going to use. We got it pretty close, but I think it's a trust issue. I'm like, I don't really
yeah,
want people seeing videos of me and going, is that her? Is that not her? She seems a bit off. Like that's
Mm.
something that I wasn't comfortable with at the end, but I wanted to just play with it just to see whether I wanted to do it or not. But what we will do is we're re-recording Idea to Launch, one of my short courses at the moment.
Yep.
And there's a couple of elements of that we have other characters coming in and saying different things. And most of that is the things that I know will change really, really quickly, because
Yeah.
my concern was I don't want to do this like high production value videos and then literally in 2 months that information is out of date and I've got to jump in and re-record again. Because if I want to put out a lot of programs, we're going to have some elements, especially when it comes to technology, AI, marketing, that are going to change a lot. So we've
Yeah.
got them in there so that I can just go in when that information changes and update it, and the video will just update and be able to do that. So that's going to be interesting to see whether people receive that well or not,
Mm.
and how they like that. But that's what we're going to try next, because I think
Just
that could allow
experiment.
us to keep our information a lot more up to date. Because I would like to be the person that goes, okay, that has changed now. I'll just jump on and just record another video. But man, I can put that shit off for months.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't want to do that.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
so with what would you say now is, if you were to recommend, say, somebody record any video, what would you recommend they record as being the one thing that would help their business? And I say that because we're talking about using AI, and there's a lot of faceless content at the moment. And, there are a lot of people that I follow that they're bragging about, I've set up this YouTube channel. It's, I've got, 5,000 subscribers in, 3, weeks
Mm.
or whatever. And it's all faceless, AI generated content. So is that something like, and for me, I teach people, to show up and tell their story and do talking head video. And I'm not saying there's not a place for that,
Mm.
but where do you feel that the faceless versus people actually showing their face style of
Mm.
videos will evolve?
So I think it depends on your goal, and
Mm,
what game you're playing. So I don't play a volume game. I
mm,
don't need that many clients to have my beautiful business. So my sweet
mm.
spot now is 200 members, and we kind of each launch we get to that, and then we slowly drop off as we have churn each month, and then we bring it back up again. And I have no aspiration to go higher than that. So for
Mm.
me, I don't have to play so much of a viral video game. But
Yes.
for people that are like low cost, high volume, they're going to have a
Mm,
totally different strategy to what I have. So if I was trying to get likes and follows on Instagram, for example, at the moment,
mm,
the viral memes outdo everything every time.
mm.
We played with a couple of them and they just shoot right up. And I'm like, it's shitty content in terms of, yeah,
Yeah,
it's entertaining, but my question is always, will it lead to people buying your program? And
exactly.
if you've got something that people are buying on a whim that's like, low cost $27, $49 kind of program, even probably up to $197, you can play that game and you'll probably be very, very successful. But if you're selling something that's more based on your expertise and your thought leadership and it's $1,000 plus, then I don't know. I haven't actually seen many people do faceless marketing and be successful with then converting to selling a high price course.
Yeah.
So I think there's still, so much place for video. I don't do video as effectively as what I know we could. So the way that we do
Yeah.
it is we get all of our masterclass recordings and podcast recordings, we put them into Opus, we cut them up, and then we put those 60-second clips on there, which is good. And it does get traction and it does get conversion, but it's not as good as if I got like my talking head video and I did it specifically for Instagram for that 60 seconds and did it better. That would be the better way to do it.
Yeah.
And it would be highly converting, but time wise, I take the second rate, even though it's not the best I can do. I take that because it's done and I know that I can keep it consistent with that. So if
Yeah.
I was going to go, how can I be the best that I can be at video? I
Yeah.
would use AI to cut up like all of my different, what does my audience need? What do they want? What are the 60-second scripts that I can go by to do that? And I would one at a time purposefully look into the camera and talk about those. That would
Yeah.
be the best way to do it.
And I
You
want to
think
talk
so?
about search.
What do you think with that?
Yeah, look, one of the things for me, and I think when you're like time poor, that is the key thing, is being able
Mm,
to repurpose content, because if you've still got an important message and you can still share that, again, that's the quantity side of things.
Yeah.
But at the moment, my strategy is about to evolve again, because I want to focus in and do long form YouTube content. And the reason why I want to do this is because what's happening, and this is something that I'm noticing. So if I go to Perplexity AI and I type in XYZ, give me a itinerary to Barcelona for 3 days versus I want to buy an electric scooter versus I want to write a launch plan for my business next week. What's happening is and again, we're talking about, I use Perplexity. It scrapes the internet, and what it does, it brings up videos, blogs, and your podcast, for example, when I was, putting stuff in. So that long form content is what was coming up. Now, what's really, so for me, discoverability is really changing with AI. So where I was Googling everything, I don't bother with Google as much now. I put it straight into Perplexity when I want to know about something. Interestingly, then I saw, so this is what I'm observing. So therefore, if that's what these programs are scraping, I need to be in the places to be found. So that's why having a long form piece of content that's optimized, that's evergreen, so a well-researched topic, and that solve people's problems. And I'm being more deliberate now about creating that piece of hero content. Then I can distribute it and chop it all up and make the blogs and make the podcast and do all the things. But what I'm noticing is that discoverability is what's coming from that one piece of content, that how people are searching. Then I was also watching Gary V, came up in my feed, and he was at a conference and he was talking about that exact same thing of going, how many people use a chatbot to search things now? And like half the room stood up, and then he goes, look around the room. These people are not 20-year-olds. These are our age people. And he's like, so this is what's happening is it's changing how people discover things. So Google's got a lot of work to do at the moment, because they're chasing the tails of like Search Chat GPT has just been launched. It's in they're taking beta at the moment, but that'll be the next thing that'll be on everyone's app. Like I've got, I don't know about you, do you have like Chat or Perplexity on your phone when you look up things now?
Yeah, I even talk to it, so I don't even type. I will just voice talk to it and it'll talk back to me. Yeah.
And so this is how I'm observing things are changing online as well. So how we get discovered is so different. And if we're not staying ahead of all of these things, what does that mean for like you said, businesses that aren't doing the things, they will get left behind because other people are doing it.
Yeah, completely. Or just doing it the hard way.
Yeah, for sure. And so for you now, what does the next year look like for your business growth? Where are you doubling down on how to grow your business now? Like you're saying, you want to get to that next sort of level, or to even maintain, what you're doing now?
Yeah, for me, it's just, I know it seems dirty in the business world to say that you're not, like, I was talking to someone yesterday about 10X is better than 2X, which is a great book. But I'm like, I don't want that. I don't want that anymore. There's different stages of my life when I have been like, balls to the wall. I'll put it all on, and I'm going, like, I'm intense and ambitious and growing as fast as I possibly can. And that's not the season I'm in. So I very purposefully at the start of the year, my kids have their last 2 years in our home before they fly free. And I'll be like mid-40s when I have no kids at home. I'm like, there's plenty of time for me to set the world on fire then. So I am trying to just really enjoy the stage of life that we're at and not do that. But in saying that, I am still very serious about my business, and I definitely don't want to go down ever. And so it still takes work. And this is the thing, I think a lot of people assume that you barely have to work, you barely have to do anything when it gets to a certain level. And I will say it's way easier than what it was for the first, the naught to 100,000, I think, is the hardest part in any business ever. And then 100,000 to a million is like, you're doing a different stage, but it's like that. And then it gets infinitely easier after that. But it's still, if I was to stop doing something and disappear from social media or stop the podcast or stop my newsletter, we would tank so incredibly quickly. And so for me, it's really working out what are the things that are the most impactful and how can I stay ahead of the curve so that I can help our members stay ahead of the curve, but spend my time on the things that are going to matter the most so that it stays that highly impactful without having to, be a Energizer bunny bouncing around here, there, and everywhere, trying absolutely everything all the time. So I love my launch, like twice a year launches. We're doing that for this launch that we have coming up in September. I don't know when this episode's coming out, but we open the doors pretty much every year in April, September. And so we have that. And I always try and do something else. So last year we did Launch House and I had members come and we ran Launch House and did that. I do destination launches. This launch,
I would have loved to have been there for that, by the way. That would have been so much fun. I would have loved to have been behind the scenes.
I'll probably do it again one day.
Yeah.
But this year we're doing Launch Club in terms of we've asked any member who wants to launch at the same time to all launch at the same time. So we've got, I think, like 45 people that are all running their launch at exactly the same time, which will be an interesting groundswell of things. And to be launching at the same time as like people that I'm teaching are doing the thing at the same time and getting all of those results, it would be hectic because all the questions and all the things, but it will be really good. So always trying to have a bit of a play and be creative with it and see what works and see what doesn't. But my growth goal is really to, if we grow at like a 5 to 10% pace, that is perfect for me right now. So I'm doing all the things that I know will be able to sustain that and keep my lifestyle the way it is and keep the intimacy that I can have with clients the same way as it is. Because I think, say you're a member of Her Empire Builder. If I had 1,000 members in there, it'd be a different feel to what it is now. And it's not the when we redid the model, we played for a moment with going, well, do we make it 97 and just go for thousands of people? But it's not the vibe that I wanted.
Different.
I really, it's different. And you lose that like mastermindy feel and it just becomes, you're just like a number in a big membership. So I didn't want that. But I'm playing with other businesses where I can kind of have those things on the side as well.
Yeah. Can I just ask, because I, talk to a lot of other course creators and things, and a lot of them say that, what was working back in 2021, for example, isn't necessarily working now for creating courses or lead magnets and, memberships. One, what do you say to that of going, what lead magnets are working, and what if somebody was launching a course? And I was talking to someone the other day and I went, oh, how did your launch go? And they said, oh, I've got 2 people in. And I said, what was your goal? And they said 10. And I'm like, so what would you say to those people of going, where do we manage our expectations? Like, what can we expect out of when we do launch a course? And what do we need to do to get those goals now that's different to?
Yeah, so I actually don't think it's changed all that much. AI has changed a lot of how we do different things behind the scenes, but there's not that much like that's not working now that was working before and vice versa. So our lead magnets, our top lead magnets, are still PDF guides. Still the same thing. We still do webinars. We lead with those. What I am finding with the webinars is you get a whole lot more people register and the show up rate is less than what it was traditionally. And I think that is because of the volume in the market. So I do think that even you just in the last 5 years with how much more crowded it has gotten, you do need more volume like at the top of funnel to get your same results at the bottom of funnel. So it used to be, say I could get 100 people to come along to a challenge, I would get 30 to 40 of them sign up. Whereas now it's more like 20 to 30 of them sign up.
Okay.
So I do think that people have more of a plethora of choice in the marketplace, and they're comparing a lot
Yeah.
more. So that is naturally going to happen just as business, like the model matures and does that.
Yep.
But I also find, a lot of people think that online is a quick way to make money, and they come in and they exit as well. So the stayers get rewarded.
Yes.
But in terms of like what's changed, so we do challenges now. We tried paid challenges. I've gone back to free challenges because I
Okay.
find that even though paid challenges have a higher conversion rate, and so you have less people, but they're coming in and they're really already like sold on it. Free challenge, you get so many more people top of funnel that long term, like if you're playing the long game over the year or two, usually those people are going to end up converting over the course of a couple of years. So it is better long term, I find, by our numbers to do the free challenge still. Social media has changed massively.
Yeah.
You used to be able to do a couple stories. I know, like, my stories are about a third of views that they used to be a year ago with how many
Sure.
people are seeing them every day.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not alone in that. There was a while that I was like, oh my gosh, like what's happening? Does nobody like me anymore? Like, what am I doing wrong here? And then I spoke to a couple of mates and they're like, yeah, it's all the same. So I think expectation wise, it's good for people to know that, so that they know they're not necessarily doing something wrong. You just
Yeah.
need more people now because there's so many more people to compete with on the internet. And so, yeah, even with that, like I know when we put out, when ManyChat first came out, which we started using it massively last year, and everyone was excited by it. And so you'd say like, comment the word, and we'd have like 25, 30 comments underneath of all these people. Now there's like 1 or 2 people that are commenting. They're like,
Yeah.
I don't want to comment anymore. So
Yeah. I know where this is going.
I know where this is going. I know the funnel of humor is about to get in with you. And so I do think that there's a big part that you've got to just, jump on the next thing, stay ahead of the curve, and look at marketing as this constant curious experiment. But know at its core, what I would say to people, especially at the beginning, but at any stage of business, what hasn't changed is humans do business with humans.
Yes.
People are looking at you and going, I want to learn this one thing. I want this one result. What I'm looking for is the person that can deliver me this one result. And so you have to provide a way to connect with people. Like, one of the things that I do that everyone in my mastermind that I'm a part of thinks I'm nuts doing this, but it's one of the best strategies that's always worked for me, and I don't think I'll ever stop, is discovery calls. When we do a launch, I open up my calendar and I jump on 15-minute calls with people. And sometimes they piss me off because I will go, this is a call to talk about whether Her Empire Builder is right for you, where you're at. And I will be honest with people and either say, yes, it's a good idea, or no, you're probably not there yet. Here's some other free resources you can do in the meantime. But some people will use it and go, because my private coaching.
Free coaching call.
Yeah. So I charge $2,000 an hour for my private coaching. So people see that they can get me for 15 minutes and they're like, yum. But I shut that down very quickly.
Yeah. It's about establishing that expectation to start with, isn't it?
Yeah. And so sometimes people will get on, they go, well, I'm not interested in Her Empire Builder, but while I've got you, and I'm like, yeah, bye.
I heard somebody word it beautifully. I just saw a reel on Instagram, I think it was, and she was just, doing a behind the scenes. This is how I stage, how I prepare the call. And it was very much going, this is what the call was about. This is what I'm, going to be doing. It was, and I went, oh, that is a really clever way of how, she explained that.
Yeah,
And
it's nice. We'll always have 1 or 2 people try and get around that. Like, people can be cheeky. But I do think that for people at the beginning, like, my point is to not forget about connecting with people. So to use your example of the person that wanted 10 people, got 2 people, I'm like, everyone, if they're really good at what they do, everyone knows 10 people in their human network that would be good for their program. So why aren't you talking to those people? Like, literally not using a CRM, but getting your email out or Facebook Messenger, or go old school with it and pick up the phone and give them a call and say, hey, I'm doing this new thing. I think you'd be perfect for it. Do you want to have a chat? Like, just be human about it instead of expecting. Sometimes I see people or spending like massive Facebook ads or whatever they're doing, and thinking that replaces or negates the need to connect with people at a human level, but it doesn't. Like, really, it's always going to be required.
It's interesting because I think last time we spoke, I said that I was going out to do a lot more in-person events and
Yeah.
workshops, and I just ran a workshop. And then because of that workshop, I got a new member out of that, that had come on board. And then I also had one of my existing members upgrade to the accelerator option. So just that connection really matters.
Yeah.
You mentioned before about a challenge. I am running a challenge myself, and in the next couple of weeks, helping people to create a sales video for their website or their social media. And I was sitting there over the weekend going, okay, what is the timeline that I should be doing this? Because I was
Mm.
like, yeah, if I was doing this in person, you do it as a day workshop, right? But online, I was like, really, this needs to be over 3 or 4 days, because
Yeah.
people need that time to just do the
Percolate.
work
Yeah.
and let it sink in. And that's how I came across you, because I did I think it was the 4-day lead magnet challenge through
Yeah.
Kajabi, for example.
Yeah.
So I found that if it's just squished all in, it's too much information for them to absorb.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love challenges because it allows you to build a relationship with people too. When
Yeah,
they're showing up day after day, you're getting a little bit more casual, which means that people can get a sense of actually who you are and what it's like to work with you, which is
yeah,
what I think AI won't ever replace.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, like, it's, if you want to learn from someone, unless you're learning something like super ABC systemized technical,
yeah,
that I think AI will replace completely. But if there's nuance to what you're doing, which for a lot of thought leadership, there is nuance,
yeah.
then people want to learn from you and want to get to know you as well as a person.
And do you have any tips for me doing my challenge, my video challenge?
Yeah. Okay. How long have you got, Deb? So in terms of what makes a good challenge,
Mhm.
to increase the show up rate, you want
Yep.
to remind people more than what you think you need to. So we've increased our amount of volume of emails that are coming in. We do 72 hours before, 48 hours before, 24 hours before, 3 hours
Yep,
before,
writing
one
this
hour
down.
before, 15 minutes before.
Mhm.
That increased our show up rate a lot in our last launch. The other thing we did was we did worksheets. So everyone loves when we do a challenge, our Canva templates and our worksheets. People
Mhm.
could only get them if they showed up live. So even people that caught the recording couldn't get them. And we had people that were like, running their day job or at work that would log in to the live just to be able to get that and jump off, which
Right.
increased our engagement massively and increased our show up. So the launch we did before we did that, we had a show
Okay.
up rate of 32%. We got it to 48% by doing that. So we did that, and we put in daily prizes as well for show up prizes. So we did and good ones, like we did AirPods and a podcast mic and things that people actually wanted.
Mm.
So I would entertain doing that because it's, to me, marketing dollars is the cost of that is worth it to get people to show up. And that's half the battle, really, is once people show up, they're going to love you. They're going to think it's great. So
Yeah.
getting people there, that's going to be the challenge. And then I would say a daily action step. So a lot of the time when people are going through challenges, I have heard so many people go through other people's challenges and go, I didn't join the program because I was like sorted. I had so much to do from that few days that I'll catch you on the next one, kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
right.
you want to lead it so that it's valuable. I hear people sometimes saying, like, don't teach the what, know how. But I think
Mhm.
you've got to show people, like, it's their time, and time is the most valuable commodity that you want to reward people
Mhm.
for giving you their time, give them something of substance, but then keep it light enough that they can do an action step that's achievable every day, so that at
Okay.
the end of your training, your sales page is done. Like, you've got that video, it's live on the website. You've got to drill it down so much so that they're like, oh my gosh, like, I just did this, I got a full result. Like, this was absolutely what I wanted. What's next? Because if
Yeah.
it's still not finished, if they're like, okay, it's going to take me another couple of weeks to do this, they're not ready to buy the program and take that next step. So make sure it's simple enough that people can do it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. And it's
Welcome.
interesting because I actually ran a poll on my stories to go, would you like to do this in half a day or would you like to do this? No one chose over 4 days. And I'm like, of course you don't, because we all want a quick win.
Yeah.
And again, I'm like, but that tells me that if it was an in-person event, you definitely do it in,
Yeah.
the day event as such, but definitely for what I want to do, because I want people to actually walk away with a
Yes.
video that they can upload on their website, that they can use on their social media for when they're launching their products or launching their course or membership. So that was my transformation thing of
Yeah,
from
nice.
start to finish. And you need to do the prep work. It's like painting a bedroom. You've got to mask up and wipe down the walls. And a lot of people miss that work. They just press record, and that's why they don't get results. Thank you so much for your time. To wrap up, Tina, I just want to ask you, if you had to just pick 5 tech tools that are a must-have for your business, as an online course creator, membership,
Like
what would they
AI tools
be?
or just any tech
Tech
tools?
tools, just tech tools.
Kajabi would be my
Yeah,
number one.
100%. Yeah,
Monday.com.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah,
I think they're the 2 things I couldn't live without. I've tried
yeah.
alternatives to them, and they're the 2 that I know my business would suffer greatly if I did not have them. And if we're talking software only, then we can't have this, but my 3rd would be my phone, because I'm amazed at what you can do on
That
your
is
phone.
100% given, right? You can do
Right,
everything from
right.
your phone.
I mean, how incredible is that?
Yeah,
But probably my other most used tech tools, I mean, Instagram, just the common ones. The probably less
mm.
common ones that I'm using a lot at the moment, Cast Magic, which I think you use too, don't you? Is our new thing that
No.
we use for our podcast.
No,
Um,
I just use Perplexity for my show notes and timestamps chapters. Again,
This
it's
has done a lot in terms of
yeah.
what we do for our podcast. So
Okay.
I'm loving the way that it does it.
Yeah,
We're
interesting.
putting all of our masterclasses through Cast Magic for all of that stuff
Mm.
as well, which is working really well. So that's probably a lesser known one. But yeah, the wide ones are the things everyone's using that I can't live without is Zoom and, all the
Yeah,
general.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, right.
What was
Yes.
life before it,
Yeah,
exactly. Thank you
yeah.
so much for your time today, Tina. I've really
Thank
enjoyed your
you.
chat. And is there one passion project that really lights your fire at the moment that isn't work, that is something that just like that
Oh,
you just love?
it isn't
Get
work. I mean,
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time with my kids. My son is training to become a professional golfer, and so I spend a lot of my week sitting in a golf cart at the moment.
Love it.
And while I don't love golf at all, I'm loving that he's 16, and I feel like there was a time through like 13, 14 where I could feel that he was getting his own life and getting time away, and which is great for teenage boys to get, but I feel like I've got like a second wind of
Yeah.
this beautiful, precious time with him that I wouldn't have got otherwise. And we'll just banter and chat, and he'll tell me things that I'm like, if we didn't have this as a space, I think I would have lost a bit of that relationship there through natural aging. And so there's a part of me that's just like hanging on tight to that
Love it.
and really enjoying it and soaking it up. And yeah, so a lot of my time is spent doing that. And I have 3 dogs, and I am walking a lot.
Nice.
So yeah, that's me.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. And
Thanks,
so
Deb.
people can find you on Her Empire Builder. You're launching in
Yeah,
September. So
herempirebuilder.com. And on that page, you'll see, like, if you want to join the wait list to join Her Empire Builder, or whatever training we have coming up is always there at the top of the homepage as well. Yeah.
thank you so much, Tina.
Thanks, Deb.
Okay, well, Her Empire Builder, Tina Tower. You can check it out, and I'll put all the details in the show notes. Thanks again. Bye.